Hi friends and dear students, preparing for UGC NET. I am Lakshmi here in front of you with a small help in the form of previous year's question UGC NET 2018 questions. I have taken only 5 questions in the beginning and given their correct answers along with brief explanation of every question. In this video, I have explained everything in English. However, if you want, I can make another video by mixing Hindi and English, both the languages. So here you are. One more thing I would like to share with you students. If you find something in the questions, anything which you want that this topic or this point should be explained, in detail, please write in the comment box. Well, without taking much of your time, let's start. So the first question we are going to discuss is a statement. This is the statement from a play by Oscar Wilde, and we have to identify the play, right? So the statement is: the chapter on the fall of rupee you may omit. It is somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side. The fall of the Indian rupee in the final decades of the 19th century is referred to in one of Oscar Wilde's play. Identify the play. So first of all, we must know that all these the different options are: a woman of no importance, Lady Windermere's fan, an ideal husband, the importance of being earnest, right? The correct answer is option D, the importance of being earnest. The above statement is exchanged between Cecily Cadew, the ward of Jack Worthing, and Miss Prism. You remember, audience, that Cecily Cadew is a girl and who was looked after by Jack Worthing, the protagonist of the play, and Miss Prism was a teacher, Cecily's governess. While Miss Prism was teaching Cecily at her home, both the characters appear in one of the very popular play by Oscar Wilde, The Importance of Being Earnest, a trivial comedy for serious people. First performed on 14th February 1895 at the St. James Theatre in London. It is a farcical comedy in which the protagonist maintained fictitious personae to escape burdensome social obligations. So one thing I would like to tell you people here is that, see, when we look at the statement, we see that what kind of economy, play is there, or some theme of the play would be economy, but it's not like that. And one thing, in this regard, we need to know about Oscar Wilde, that he had a tendency of making his things complicated, and this is why he, added this communication or this exchange of thoughts regarding economy between two characters of the play. Next question is: who viewed Wordsworth, Southey, Coleridge as representatives of a sect of poets, dissenters from the established systems in poetry and criticism? Who constituted the most formidable conspiracy against sound judgment in matter politics? So our options are: option number A, Henry Vaughan; B, Francis Jeffrey; C, Francisco Franco; D, Ralph Vaughan. So the correct answer is option of B, Francis Jeffrey. Right, so here for your reference I have given the date of birth of Francis Jeffrey. He was born on 26 1850, Edinburgh. He was a literary critic and Scottish judge, best known as the editor of the Edinburgh Review, a quarterly that was a preeminent organ of British political and literary criticism in the early 19th century. In 1834, he was made a judge and assumed the title of the Lord. Now we are at question number 3. So the question number 3 is: the term digger is associated with a group of agrarian communists who flourished in England in 1649-50 and were led by. Our options are: A, Lawrence Clarkson; G, George Fox; C, John Lilburne; and D, Gerald Winstanley. So the correct answer is option number D, Gerald Winstanley. Well, here is a little information I have taken from Wikipedia, which I am going to share with you people. Gerald Winstanley, born on October 19, 1609, to 10 September 1676 he died on. He was an English Protestant religious reformer, political philosopher and activist during the Protectorate of Oliver Cromwell. I hope you all know about Protectorate and Oliver Cromwell. Winstanley was the leader and one of the founders of the English group known as the True Levelers or Diggers for their beliefs and for their actions. The group occupied public lands that had been privatized by enclosures and dug them over, pulling down hedges and filling in ditches to plant crops. True levelers or diggers for their beliefs and for their actions. The group occupied public lands that had been privatized by enclosures and dug them over, pulling down hedges and filling in ditches to plant crops. True levelers was a name they used to describe themselves, whereas the term digger was coined by contemporaries. Question number 4 we have is, who among the following exemplified the role of the peasant poets? John Clare, John Keats, William Cobbett, Robert Burns. Well, the right combination according to the quotes is A. Option 2 and 3, B. 1 and 2, C. 1 and 4, D. 3 and 4. So the correct answer is answer B. 1 and 2, John Clare and Robert Burns. Well, I would like to explain a little bit about both of them. In his time, Clare was commonly known as the Northamptonshire peasant poet. So first of all, we have to find, we have to keep in mind that both John Clare and Robert Burns were peasant poets, and his formal education was brief. His other employment and his class origin were lowly. Clare assisted the use of the increasingly standardized English grammar and orthography in his poetry and prose, alluding to political reasoning in comparing grammar in a wider sense of orthography to tyrannical government and slavery. Personifying it in jocular fashion as a witch, he wrote in his Northamptonshire dialect, introducing local words to the literary canon such as footy, snail, lady cow, lady bird, grizzle to crisp, and throstle song thrush. Second one is Robert Burns. He was born on 25th January 1759, 21st July 1796, also known familiarly as Rabbi Burns, the national bard of Ayrshire and the Plomin poet, and various other names and epithets, was a Scottish poet and lyricist. He is widely regarded as the national poet of Scotland and is celebrated worldwide. He is best known of the poets who have written in the Scots language, although much of his writing is in English and light Scots dialect, accessible to an audience beyond Scotland. Question number 5. So the first question number 5 is, what is an implied reader? Our options are implied reader, right? This question has been taken from literary criticism, and this is the term implied reader, and our options are A. The ideal audience envisioned by the author and to whom the work of literature is supposedly addressed. Option number B. A reader who embodies all those predispositions necessary for a literary work to exercise its effects. C. Option C. The ideal reader of a work of literature which is approximated over time by successive response of generations of actual readers. Option D. The ideal average reader who can approach a work of literature with no preconceived ideas, the author's ideas about the author's life, the time of compositions, etc. Well, the correct answer is an implied reader in literary criticism is a reader who embodies all those predispositions necessary for a literary work to exercise its effects, right? Well, here I am giving you a little brief explanation. In Wolfgang Iser's phenomenological theory of reader response, a hypothetical role or model of someone assumed by the author to share the knowledge necessary in order to fully understand the text as distinct from any actual readers. The difference between an implied reader and an actual reader is likely to be most apparent in reading works from a period when conventional values were different. The implied reader is embodied in the way in which text structures responses in the form of a network of schemata patterns, point of view, and indeterminacies that require and constrain interpretation. Well, thank you so much everyone for watching, and feel free to comment as your valuable suggestions are very much required, and they are going to motivate me to make my another videos very useful for you.